Good evening, Lancer fans. This is Mr. Smith with the football game tonight. We're going to broadcast live from the football field, talking a little bit about Lancer football and the season that they've had so far. Joining us is Colin Gilliland. He's a former football coach of the Lancers and also the soccer assistant coach. Welcome, Colin. Thanks for joining us tonight on the broadcast for the first time. Lakeside Lancer football from the sound booth.
Absolutely, Rich. It's good to be here. This is fun. It's going to be exciting tonight. First time doing a broadcast like this, but also it's our first home game of the year, so a lot of excitement in the air.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the questions that the Lancers are going to attempt to answer this season. Starting off with year 2 of Coach Chandler. What did you see in year 1, and what do you anticipate year 2 is going to look like?
One of the things that really changed a lot when Mark Chandler came in was, he's been a coach in the area for decades now. I think this is into his 3rd decade of coaching in the area. And one of the things that his teams always have is a lot of discipline. And that was something, frankly, that we needed a little bit of. And he brought that last year. You saw a lot of improvement in the discipline, the reads that our kids were making. Our line play was better. And those are things that are not... they're not flippant things. They take time and repetition to instill, and hopefully we'll see more progress with that respect this season as well.
So Lancer started at 5-0 last year, but ended up kind of running into a buzzsaw, going 0-5 in league play. What do you see that needs to change with the Lancers in order to make sure that they make the postseason this year?
Well, the postseason is going to be a bit of a chore. Division 11, where the Lancers play, is a very large division. There's only 16 playoff slots available, and we'll be hard-pressed to find one of those playoff spots automatically because of the Sun Belt League that we play in. Heritage, incredibly strong. We always expect Paloma Valley to be pretty strong, and Elsinore High School, Temescal Canyon, and even Paris last year all gave us a very difficult time in league. So I think there's cause for optimism early on, but we will have our work cut out for us once we turn the corner into league.
So offensively speaking, Lakeside has a lot of weapons. I mean, they're looking at Adrian Burt, who you mentioned to me today is the career leading rusher in Lancer history. You have somebody like Roberto Pagari, just to name a few offensively, but obviously with the injury to Seth Armstrong, the quarterback who is going to be a senior this year, maybe there might be some struggles offensively. What needs to happen for this team offensively to be successful?
Well, first off, losing Seth is an absolutely huge blow. I mean, in the scrimmage, he goes down, hasn't played week 1 or week 2. But the thing about Seth is he can serve as a sort of additional coach in that he's a very mature player, very mature young man, period. So that will be helpful. But one of the things that's really going to help the young kids that are going to try and step up for him, for Seth, be it his younger brother or Dylan Baumhoff, who's seen the bulk of the action the first couple of games, is the way that the offensive line plays. And I think some of that is going to be helped by, like you mentioned, Adrian Burt, who's statistically the best running back we've ever had here. But it all starts up front with those big boys. If they can keep second and manageable, third and manageable situations by getting a good push on first down and getting some good yardage, that'll give our young quarterbacks a little bit more of a comfort level and then time to ease in, because once we get into league, those games ratchet up in intensity and difficulty.
Now, I was kind of noticing that during the Hemet West Valley game, which the Lancers won 33-7, that Dylan Baumhoff actually stepped up and ran the ball very effectively when Adrian Burt didn't have the ball. And he ran with power. He ran well up the middle. Maybe kind of talk a little bit about what you kind of saw in the game film about Dylan's performance there at the quarterback position.
Well, you could definitely tell as the game wore on, he became more comfortable. I think anytime you have your projected starter go down, that first week after that starter goes down is going to be difficult because he's been taking the bulk of the reps. You get a week of practice in, You get a game, maybe knock some of your jitters out, and then you get your second game where you've seen the bulk of the reps as the first-team quarterback, and you go in there, and as the game wore on, you could tell he got more comfortable. He was more decisive with his reads, running the zone read, and made a lot of good decisions with the football, and that's a big part of this offense, is making good decisions with the football from the quarterback position.
Now, Mark Chandler, in the preview of that was on Lancer Live that came out earlier today, he spoke a little bit about the offensive line. He mentioned players that were a little bigger, a little stronger. They came in with some good attitude. What have you seen in terms of the offensive line in that game film, especially from that West Valley domination?
Well, one of the things that I noticed immediately was they get off the ball a lot better, meaning when that ball snapped, they are firing off the ball. Whereas last year, it seemed that they were always, a step behind the defensive front of whomever we were playing, really. But as the game wore on, you would kind of expect something like that to wane a little bit as people tire, especially a team like ours that we don't have a great large number of bodies, but those guys, perhaps maybe smelling some blood in the water, we're still firing out, and that's something that we'll have to see how that plays out as the year progresses. If that is something that can continue to keep up, if our offensive line continues to play like they've played in these first couple of games, then we'll be in much better shape once we get into the big boys in league.
So now we are going to focus our attention on the defense. They opened up the season with a shutout. They went 3 quarters of shutout football against West Valley, gave up a late TD toward the end of the game. Beginning 7 straight quarters of scoreless football, is this defense really a powerhouse? Is it really a legitimate shutdown defense?
We'll have to wait and see. I think 2 games in, obviously not giving up points, only giving up the lone touchdown, really in garbage time to West Valley. The one thing that I noticed in looking at the film is we've got a player at every level that can make plays, and that was something that we didn't have last year. Moving Isaiah Uridia from safety down into the box as a linebacker this year, that gives us a quick and aggressive, and I mean aggressive. He loves to come up and hit. Paul Brannon in the defensive backfield got a pick against West Valley, high-pointed that ball. It was good technique on his end, and then we've got a couple of young defensive line players, Cole McGuire being one, and then the other one, Wyatt Steele, have both shown, again, they're just sophomores, but they've shown early on so far that they could potentially be difference makers on the defensive front, and that's something that we really haven't had an impact D lineman, really, that I can ever remember.
Yeah, so let's also talk a little bit about, the Lancers come in a little bit nicked up. I saw that, Lamasatelli went out with a knee injury, but I spoke with him earlier this morning. He said that he's good to go. Is this a different defense without Saleh Lamasatelli, floating around out there in the backfield and actually making some really big plays for us?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. He is, again, he's an outside linebacker, stand-up end, sort of a hybrid that they give a lot of freedom to because he's versatile enough to have that freedom. He's a big, strong kid, but he's deceptively fast. He can move incredibly well, and he just seems to have a nose for the ball. He always finds himself, if not making the first hit or being in there on the tackle, he's coming there to finish a play off. And he and the other one that I really like is Darian Bergstresser. And I'm not sure of his availability tonight. I know I saw him kind of hobbled a little bit during the week around campus, but hopefully he's healthy and ready to go.
So the Lancers are ranked in the top 10 in the division. And in your opinion, is this really shaping up to be the best season in Lancer football history? Is that what we're looking at?
As we sit here right now, I would find few reasons to say no. We have a positive trajectory. We've weathered some early injuries and rebounded from perhaps some mistakes that perhaps would have doomed us last year, even in our first couple of games when we were matched up against teams that we probably should have beaten. last year and in previous seasons, we would have maybe found ways to keep those games close and have to win them sort of in spite of ourselves. But that's not happened so far this year, and the kids, I think, are responding and acting and playing a little bit differently this year than they have in the past. So yes, I think this could be the year that we get over that 500 hump.
So the rest of the Sun Belt League, you know, your brother's a coach over there at the Blues School, Temescal Canyon. How is their season kind of shaping up so far, and what can we expect from, you know, other powerhouses in that Sun Belt League?
Well, you gotta, whenever you talk Sun Belt League, you begin with Heritage always. I don't think they've lost a league game in maybe six or seven seasons now. And they're very good, and they're very good in the trenches. Their defensive and offensive lines are fantastic. Temescal Canyon will be better this year than they were last year, although they've been bit by the injury bug. A couple of significant injuries, I'm told, to their center and to their running back as well. Both of them out for extended periods of weeks going forward. Any team that's coached by Tony Peralta over at Elsinore is going to be prepared, and they're going to play hard, and they're going to be fundamentally sound. And then, you know, Paris is always a wild card. They've got talent. They always have talent. It's just a matter of can they put it together, because they've got a great stable of athletes, I should say. And then Paloma Valley is going to be interesting. They're experiencing coaching turnover. So that would be the wild card, I would say, in our league this year. Along with, in all honesty, along with Lakeside. Lakeside could be a potential wild card and cause some problems for some teams this year in the league.
Well, I will say that was a pretty good take on our first pregame show that we've ever done from the booth. So thank you again, Coach G, for doing that and coming into the booth and kind of giving us some inside scoop on Lancer football and also some of the other teams in the Sun Belt League and also in Division 11 CIF. Thanks a bunch, and we're going to get ready, folks, here for some exciting Lancer football coming up in just a few minutes.